Welcome, people. Welcome to the Town Tailgate Podcast. Julio, our first one, the inaugural one, baby.
Let's get it. We're so excited to share this kind of, I guess, passion project Chris and I have been putting together for really the last 2 weeks, but this is something we've kind of thrown around the bushes for a while.
We've been talking about it for like a year and a half, and yeah, we were just like the last 2 weeks. We're like, you know what? Fuck it. Now's a better time than any. Let's just do it. The season's about to start. We can get the episodes going. Like one right before the season. Let's just go all in. And then me, you, and my brother Larry, who is also a producer on this podcast, just hit it hard with the design, with the creative, with the writing, everything about it.
And all it took was a global pandemic to kind of really push us forward into where we want to be.
I know, dude.
So yeah, it's going to be very exciting stuff. This is kind of going to be the place to be to listen to some Oakland A's chat from the fan perspective. Obviously, there is a ton of great resources in terms of players within the media members of the A's and A's players.
Yeah, great. There's plenty of great A's podcasts out there for sure.
But you're not going to find many like us. So Chris, what is this? What are we going to do? What are we talking about?
I mean, I think the best way to explain it is like, I mean, me and you have been fans our entire life. And like, not only have we been fans, like, you know, there's people out there who, you know, they casually like pay attention to the team. They know the players, but they don't quite know the game and know the history of our team and know the front office and the tendencies they have. Know the manager, know the style of play the players have, know the prospects in the farm system quite like we do. From the fan perspective, absolutely. Like not necessarily. I'm not talking about like journalists like Susan Selesser or like, you know, like Ben Ross or Joey Stiglitz, like those guys, those people. Sorry, they work to be reporters for the team, so they spend a lot of time with the team. They spend a lot of time with the club. All of their organization, minor leagues and up, so they know it from a different perspective. But the difference between our podcast and theirs is we're allowed to have opinions. Yeah. We're allowed to say it the way we the way we see it and the way we think it should be. And I'd like to say that we have just as much baseball knowledge as them. I don't feel confident in that statement, but we're going to give a perspective that they're not going to give you.
Yeah. And
I think that's the best way to put it.
To be fair, Susan Selesser does keep it real on Twitter with people. I will say
that's one of the things I love most about her.
Yeah, that's how I love the most. She'll be frank with people. She'll be straight up. And one of the points I want to bring up, we'll talk about later, of something she's brought up during one of the games the other night. But I think the good summary of this is the reason why this is called the Town Tailgate is imagine this show every week with Chris and I or whenever we bring in our occasional guests as a conversation you have while tailgating before the game. Those like lighthearted banter talks, or when you have your uncle that's probably had a few too many beers and tries telling you why like Jose Canseco is the greatest A ever or something, like, but he cheated.
In the middle of a cornhole game, just standing right next to you, just chatting your ear off. You're like, okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah.
Your like cousin's weird friend who's just like breath kind of smells and getting too close to you. I'm like, all right, dude, relax. Like, except we're doing this over the audio version, so you don't have to deal with those uncomfortableness. You'll just have to deal with us.
But it's still same debauchery, same just ridiculousness that's going to be coming out of our mouth, and in a fun, like lighthearted way. This is going to be not so business. It's going to be a lot more just laid back.
Until we sell out for a few 100,000 to whichever sports
and start getting ads in here and stuff. Of course. I mean, but that's different. We're still gonna have fun and be loose and hang out, but we'll be getting paid instead of doing it for free.
Exactly.
Can I just bring up one thing after we kind of brought up Susan Selesser, because someone, I forgot who it was. I think it was like Jessica Kleinschmidt brought this up on Twitter the other day. It's pretty fucking cool to see like 80% of the A's beat writers are women.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass. I think Ben Ross is the only one who's like officially on the beat that's not a woman. So that's pretty cool.
Susan Selesser,
shout out to all of them. Alex Coffey. Melissa Lockhart. Melissa Lockhart's not a beat writer, but she covers the A's. Jessica Kleinschmidt, she's not a beat writer, but she covers the A's.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see that going on with the organization, that they're willing. And Susan Slusser's been there for, oh man, since I think at least the late '90s. So she's kind of like
almost
the
as long
OG.
as I've known like A's like beat writing, it's only been her. Like like I don't have any memory past her.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, seriously. That's I think when we really started cognitively started following the A's. That's when that's all we think about is her when it comes to that.
Yeah, like those Giambi teams and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's. I guess we should probably introduce ourselves a little bit and get to know, so that the audience can get to know us and stuff. All right, Julio, you can go first. How did you become an A's fan? Would you say if you had to label it?
When I think about my A's fandom and how it kind of all started, well, for one, my whole family's from Oakland. I'm unfortunately, it's funny. My mom's from Oakland. My dad was born in Mexico, but pretty much his adult years and growing adult years, whether it's like his late teens to his early 30s, were in Oakland. And then all three of my older brothers are born in Oakland. And then guess what? I was born in Antioch. So, but
no love for you, bro.
Exactly. But if you look at like pictures as me as a newborn, I actually have like an Oakland A's fit going on. So it's kind of going back since there. My dad has told me memories for like one of the first dates him and my mom went on was actually the World Series parade back in '74. I want to say. So,
that's pretty badass, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, my dad tells me the stories about that. But yeah, I've honestly, literally as soon as I was born as a lifelong A's fan, I guess I was 3 months old when the A's won the '89 World Series. So I can say that I experienced the World Series, I guess. Some of my earliest memories consist of I actually was lucky enough to go to the Kingdome back in '96, and I saw Mark McGwire hit a home run, and and at that point I didn't really understand baseball too fluidly. I just knew I liked the A's, but I was so upset when he hit that home run because I was such a big believer of take me out to the ball game, and that you always had to root for the home team. So when he hit a home run, I was upset as a kid. I'm like, no, we're supposed to root for the home team. Yeah, that's kind of like my fandom. Since
96? Oh, God, yeah, you're like 7 years old.
Yes. Yeah, so I got to go to the Kingdome, so I marked that off my bucket list. But really, I think what super compelled me to become like a huge A's fan was just those Moneyball teams. Barry Zito was still is, if not my favorite Oakland A ever. I just love the grassroots of the whole team, how encompassing the team has been with the city of, not only just the city of Oakland, but the East Bay as a whole. We both grew up in Antioch, and I think that's something that we're proud of. Is not that Antioch was like a rough place or anything, but compared to the San Francisco teams, and no offense there because I lived in San Francisco, they're always very the golden child of the Bay Area, whereas the East Bay, they were kind of like the redheaded stepchild. And for the A's, kind of like that blue collar or green collar way of playing is something that I've really made me love the team even more. They've always been the underdogs, and it's something that's really attached me to this team for all these years. And then when I moved down to Southern California back in 2013, I felt like I even became like a bigger A's fan before I was, even though I was going to 10 plus games every year. I was going to playoff games and all that. I became a bigger fan. So I started going to games against the Angels. There was one year where I went to every A's road game in Southern California, where I saw them with the Padres, Dodgers, and Angels. I went to go watch them in Japan. It was like pretty astonishing.
And you would do your I believe in Stephen Vogt chant at the visitor stadiums.
Yeah, my favorite was one time I did it in San Diego, and Stephen Vogt hit a grand slam. But like I would say, probably my favorite memories of like in-person events. I was at the Cespedes throw game at Angel Stadium, where he fumbled the ball, and I was in the left field bleachers too, so he was like 20 feet away from me.
Were you the first game or were you the next game? Because he did it 2 days in a row, remember?
Whatever was the first, I think it was the first game, where like the throw that everybody knows.
The corner of left field, yeah.
Where he fumbles it and guns out Howie Kendrick at home. I was at that
Yeah,
game,
that's
and
the first one. Yeah, yeah.
I lost my mind. But probably this will go in as my favorite game, as well as probably my favorite moment as an Oakland A's fan has been, excuse me, the 2006 ALDS Game 3. That was my senior prom was that night, or homecoming. I'm sorry, and I had a choice. And Deer Valley's homecoming isn't really anything special. The homecoming dance wasn't anything special, but the homecoming football game was a huge deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody went to the football game. I don't remember anybody who went to the dance. Like I remember Mason was on our buddy Mason Livingston, who's also an A's fan. He was on the homecoming court and he had to go, but we were all just like, sorry, bro, we're not going
no,
with you.
For some reason, yeah, it's kind of weird compared to other high schools. Nobody really cared about the homecoming dance. But anyways, had a choice. I could either go to the homecoming game and maybe dance, or ditch school and go to Game 3 of the LDS. So there it was. Went to
You
Game
ditched
3 of the
school,
LDS.
all right.
Yeah, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life, because up until that point, the A's had never advanced the ALCS since 90 or 91.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bases loaded, Marco Scooter up, and I think the A's had like maybe a 1 or 2 run lead, hits a bases clearing double. I've never, in hundreds of games of going to the Coliseum, I have never heard that place like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And like my ears were pierced, like how loud it was, and like my voice was gone. Scooterell pulls up in second, just screams, and they won that. They won the series. They swept the Twins when the A's were huge underdogs, and that's something that like I will never forget that moment for sure. That's been like a highlight until we won the World Series in 2020. Yeah, so that's a little bit of my fandom. Been all over the world to watch this team. I hate it. I hate because how much we get invested with this team and how much they've broken us over all of our years, but wouldn't have it either other way. So Chris, nice. I know. Actually, a quick background before, if you want to know, like Chris and I's relationship. I've known Chris since. So Chris's brother and I, Larry, we were in kindergarten together, and I've known Chris since he was
pretty much my entire life.
My entire life, yeah. Their dad, Mr. Madrigal, David Madrigal, was our principal at John Muir Elementary in Antioch. So I grew up with Chris and Larry my whole lives, and I know he's got a pretty similar background in terms of like how you became an A's fan, right?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a Yankee fan growing up because he's old as shit. He's 7 years old. So there was no team when he was a kid on the West Coast except for the Dodgers. Actually, not even the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers. So he didn't really. He would watch the Yankees on TV because that was who they showed. And he didn't go to his first baseball game in person until his like late 20s or something like that. And the only reason why he went is because he was working for the city of Antioch as a special ed teacher. And the principal of the school that he was a special ed teacher for, who kind of became his mentor when he like started getting his like principal credential and eventually became a elementary school principal. But his like mentor, like he was like talking to him in the teacher's lounge one day and said like, yeah, I've never been to a baseball game. And he's like, what? You've never been? Can't believe it. And he was a big A's fan. So he decided to take my dad to an A's game. And he just had an absolute blast. He loved it. And a couple of years later, he died. He passed away, my dad's mentor. So he kind of like, on top of it being the first place he ever watched a baseball game, he kind of does it in like memory of his like mentor and his friend. So, and then that was before I was born. So I was born into that from that side. And then with my mom, she was a tomboy growing up. She loved watching sports. She loves baseball. She grew up in Los Angeles, so she would watch the Dodgers and go to Dodger games. But when she got older, she got a teaching job up here in Northern California because she went to Chico State. And my grandparents decided to move from Los Angeles to Northern California to be closer to their daughters because my aunt also lived up here in Northern California and was a teacher. So what do retired people do in their spare time? They pick up hobbies. What's one hobby that my grandparents decided to pick up? decided to just become season ticket holders for the A's and started going to games and
So
being
wait,
like,
sorry to interrupt. What year is this at this time?
this was like, so that's the best thing about it. This is like the 80s, like the mid 80s, like right when the team
Ah,
is becoming one of the greatest teams of that generation.
yeah, just as
That
they were building with Canseco and McGuire coming up. Yeah.
exactly. So like they hopped on that because they're like, oh, this team's so good and so much fun to watch. Like we should become season ticket holders. So they were season ticket holders from then until a couple years before they passed away. So they would give us tickets and stuff like that all the time as kids and take us to games growing up. So I'm the third, and yeah, just going to games, having season tickets, it kind of like reignited my mom's fandom a little bit. And then when she met my dad, it was like a big common like um, thing they had in common that really like kind of was a core stepping stone to like their marriage and their relationship. So it's 3 generations of A's fans I'm coming from. My
That's awesome.
grandparents and then my parents and then now me. So I did this is I put this question on our outline as like a thing that we should explain why we like the team so much. I can't explain it, man. I just can't. Like I can't explain why I'm so emotionally invested in this baseball team. I think it's just because some of my fondest childhood memories are in that stadium and watching that team. Even though, like you kind of said earlier, they break my heart so often, and I'm a very just emotional person in general, so it feels like it's a little bit more to me than when other teams lose for other fans. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just such fond memories with my family and my childhood, and just being just loving the game of baseball growing up. Um,
And
I would
you
say,
played all through high school too. So I think that's a bit
yeah,
bigger appreciation.
I played as long as my talent made me capable of. I would have played longer if it meant I could have. I love baseball. So my favorite moment I would say is definitely the streak. Like it's just like when it happened in our lifetime too. I'm 11 years old. Me and my family went to game 18 where Tejada hits the walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth. Um, easily, easily my favorite.
Damn.
The streak in general, my favorite moment. And then like the greatest game I've seen in person, the Stephen Vogt walk-off single in the
Oh,
2013 American League Division Series, where Sonny Gray went toe-to-toe with Justin Verlander. I think it was a 1-1 game.
yep.
And they both pitched like 8 innings, had like 9+ strikeouts, and this was Sonny Gray's rookie season. He wasn't even supposed to start that game. The only reason why he started was because I think it was Bartolo Colon got hurt a week before the postseason or something like that.
Something
This
like
was game.
yeah.
This was game 3. I think just like the way the rotation kind of came around was Colon was supposed to start that game, and because he was hurt, Sonny Gray just kind of like slid in there, and he just fucking. It was just to see him. If you're a fan of baseball, watching a pitcher's duel is like the best thing. So to see him go toe to toe with at that time was the best pitcher in all of baseball was pretty exciting to watch. And then just a nice light little blooper line drive right over the shortstop's head. Yeah, dude, it was amazing. I went there with a huge group of people. Mason was there, Chris Martinez, my brother and sister, my parents were there. God, so many people. I have a great picture of like all of us too. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
I just thought of something too. I know we talked the other night of like, excuse me, a list of people we'd want to have on the show eventually. We should eventually do a dad's episode. I think that'd be really cool, and
That
just
would be
kind of
great.
have
Hell
kind of
yeah.
hear their stories. Because my dad, one of my favorite stories, my dad's told me. Because sorry to take away for a second. So my dad was a roofer in Oakland, and he
Hmm.
retired late 2000s or so. But his boss was a season ticket holder, and he'd give them tickets, or if their job for the day fell through, they would just play hooky and go to the game. And they went to a Yankees A's game back in the 80s, and my one of my uncles, it was my dad and my uncles, they're coworkers, and they were heckling who I don't know who the Yankees like bullpen pitcher was at the time, but they kept heckling him, heckling and heckling, kept calling him pepperoni pizza, like in a really obnoxious New York accent. to the point where the guy was like started like charging after my uncle. And then,
Oh
like,
my god, dude.
the A's bullpen or the Yankees bullpen guys like grabbed him, and my uncle's like, "Come on, let's go, let's do it."
It's crazy how like back then just like that would actually get to players, like that would actually like bother them, like little things like that. You've seen so many basketball games in the 80s where it's highlights of like hecklers just like really just get really piss off players and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I think a dad episode would be cool. I think I'd like to hear. It'd be fun to hear them share like their stories and stuff like that.
I don't know if they figure out how to use QuickTime audio, but that'll the technology difficulty will be there for sure.
Okay, we didn't need to put that in the podcast, but good talk. All right, so every
boomers.
podcast.
All right.
Yeah. Every podcast we're gonna have a little outline. So we'll kind of start with news around the league, and then we'll kind of start with modern day A's news, and then we'll jump into a segment which will change every single week, and then we'll do some kind of like player of the week, or this week's going to be a little bit different. We'll explain it later, and then we'll talk about the upcoming week and what we can expect, just so that everybody kind of knows what they're getting into every week. So let's start with news around the league, like we normally should. Julio. So I think the biggest story of today, especially, is Mookie Betts just signed a 12-year extension with the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is fucking insane. You can take it from here. I have to look up his contract.
So
I forgot how much
12 years, $365 million.
Yeah,
to
right.
More or less he's going to be the face of the franchise of the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger's deal is going to still be there. Or he's still.
I was going to say, do you think he takes over the face over Cody? Cody Bellinger. I was going to ask you that.
No, but I was actually talking to one of my good friends, Tim Wiseman. Shout out to him. He's a big time Dodger fan, and we were talking about how impactful it is to have somebody who's Mookie's a generational talent, excellent outfielder, he's already been MVP, World Series champion. So he's already a bunch of accolades, and he's only 27. So it's fantastic you got him locked down for that. But I think it's an even bigger impact that you have a person of color is going to be your franchise baseball player in Los Angeles. Where he brought up the point. If you look back at the history of the Dodgers and you look at Fernando Venezuela and Hideo Nomo, Yasiel Puig, Manny Ramirez when he first came here, this is going to be not just a huge thing for the Dodgers in terms of like the Dodgers are going to be a powerhouse for the next 5 to 10 years because their farm system just hasn't even been depleted with trading the assets they did to get Mookie.
It's still just fucking stacked, dude. Their farm system, it's insane.
But because of how huge the LA market is, you're going to see an uptick of more people of color playing baseball. More kids of color when they see somebody like Mookie Betts out there playing center field every day for the Dodgers. Like that's going to be a huge impact on the future of baseball.
Here's the thing, man. I mean, you'd hope so, and you'd like to think that, but the real issue is it's not. Here's the problem, and you look at the numbers. I've Baseball Barbecue had a guest who talked about a former black player who like is really working towards like building the popularity of baseball in inner cities. The biggest issue is not trying to get young kids to watch baseball because in America one of the first sports they play is baseball.
Yeah.
It's that there's not an infrastructure in the inner cities to keep kids playing baseball. There's not like a little league. There's not a little league, or there's not a Babe Ruth, and it's like, or there is a little league, but there's not like a Babe Ruth. There's no travel teams that are willing to like recruit these guys and pay for them to like, be a part of the team, pay fees and travel around the country with the team and stuff like that. It's just like.
It's a super expensive sport to play.
It's like lacrosse. Like it's tough for them to do, and if you really want to be competitive and be a good ball player, you have to play at that competitive level, and they don't even get a chance after Little League. There's just no way for them to play it, or if they do, they have to travel like 45 minutes to do it, and parents in the inner city can't afford to take them to practice like that every day.
Yeah.
And like that's the real issue, and that's the thing that baseball. I don't want to like really go too deep into this because again, this is an A's podcast, but
Yeah.
like that's the real issue with Major League Baseball. They don't do anything to help the popularity at a young age for the inner city. They just don't, and it's sad. And that's why most of baseball is white, because it's only in really suburbs. And
that's the biggest difference over the last, say, 25 years in baseball. Is just it's not promoted as well. But to kind of go back to more for the baseball talk of the Mookie deal, this is the first time, because if you think about it, they traded for Manny Machado, go to the World Series, doesn't work out. They traded for Yu Darvish, goes World Series, doesn't work out. So this is the first time where they've traded for this big asset and they locked him down.
That's a good point.
And I think a lot of us, every baseball fan, I don't think anybody expected him to sign a deal right now. And there were even some, I think Dave Roberts.
I don't know, man. I wasn't surprised when I heard the news today.
But even Dave Roberts had said that they've honestly been working on this since spring training. And so it's pretty wild that somebody who hasn't played a single game yet, obviously he's seen the success of the franchise, and he's seen like kind of what management and upper management has done to kind of prove that he wants to stay here. But it's pretty interesting now. And you could see a point where whenever LeBron retires, like Mookie's going to be the star of LA.
Yeah, he's going to be huge in LA. He's going to be a huge star.
Oh yeah.
I definitely think that Bellinger right now is the face of the Dodgers. That's only because he's been there for a while. But Mookie is the best player, and he will take over that team. He's top 3 player in the game itself. So like, he's just it. I don't hate the Dodgers. I actually enjoy watching them play. So I'm happy for them. That's great.
The Gen X,
and I'm happy for Mookie because I love Mookie. Yeah. Mookie's so fucking cool.
The Gen X A's fans are the ones who hate the Dodgers because of '88.
Because of Kirk Gibson, and they stole the '88 series. Yeah.
If you ask my oldest brother Elias, if I bring up the Dodgers, he's like, "Fuck the Dodgers." I'm like, "Are you serious, dude? Like, come on." Real quick before we jump to the next subject, since we both are more or less we are Angelinos, what do you think is going to be his go-to bowling alley in LA? Are you thinking he's going to be more hipster, go to Highland Park Bowl? Is he going to be more obscene and go to Lucky Strikes?
No way. He won't go to Lucky Strike, especially not in Hollywood. He'll get mobbed by paparazzi.
No, Lucky Strike at the downtown LA by Staples Center.
That would be even worse. No, definitely not. You're talking about in the what's that called?
LA Live.
Nokia. Oh, LA Live.
Yeah, LA Live. Yeah.
I think I kind of see him as more of like a West Sider, like a bolero kind of guy. Like a bolero, Marina Del Rey.
I don't know, man. I don't see him. I feel like I don't know if we'd have to bring a Dodger fan on here. But I feel like no Dodgers live on the West Side. I feel like if you're gonna live,
if you're gonna live in Los Angeles, you'd want to live by the beach, though. But yeah, maybe. If I'm him, I would go to Highland Park because no one's going to notice him in Highland Park. It's just a bunch of hipsters that live there. They don't care about baseball.
I'm going to say my low-key one is Pickwick Bowling. Right around the corner. Oh, you know where Pickwick is at. Around the corner from Griffith Park.
I don't. I've never been there.
It's across the way. It's total LA talk. Welcome to LA talk with Chris and Julio.
I know, dude.
It's by the Equestrian Center. It's right on Riverside Drive, like right by Disney.
For the listeners, we both currently live in Los Angeles, so we just know too much about it. All right, let's move on. Okay, all right, let's move on. Another big piece of news. This came out yesterday. Mike Trout tweeted that he is in. He is full in for the season, and there was a lot of question marks around him because his wife is pregnant, so he did not want to put her and the baby at risk. But he is fully committed to the season so far. So that's good news for the Angels. They'll get to test out their dynamic duo that they spent a lot of money on this offseason. Does this make you a little bit more fearful of the Angels and the A's division now, or how do you feel? I feel personally about the same.
Yeah, I think it's about the same. I think the biggest problem with the Angels still, Anthony Rendon, it sounds like he's going to be out on Friday. He had I forgot what injury he had, but he's going to be out. But their lineup is great. I still think the lineup is one of the better in the American League from top to bottom. Especially, I think somebody who's super underrated is Tommy La Stella over at second. But the rotation's still very iffy. I think
that's always been their issue. Their issue has always been pitching, and that's what people don't get about the Angels. And people always rank them so high because of the talent that they have on the field. But dude, I hate to break it to you, pitching's a big part of baseball.
Yeah, especially if you're going to be playing the NL West teams only this year, where you're going to be playing in places like Petco and AT&T and Oracle Park, and you're going to be playing at Dodger Stadium. Those are all in Oakland. Those are all in Seattle. Are very pitcher-friendly parks. So you need your guys to kind of go out there. I still think I could still see them get a wild card spot. Everything's got to hit right though. Ohtani's got to become the ace that they paid him to be. You got to see guys like Griffin Canning and Andrew Heaney actually step up and kind of be the prospects they were. If Julio Teheran can be average or a little above average, that's great. And then you need your bullpen to kind of really step up. You need guys like Hansel Robles and Camber Trojan to really do their jobs with the Angels bullpen. It could be possible. Now, that being said, if he didn't play this season, 1,000% they're out. There's no way they were going to be a team.
Could not agree more.
No. Yeah, exactly.
If you lose the best player in baseball, like, that's a pretty big blow. Even though baseball is such a team sport, like, still it's the best player. You're a lot more optimistic about their rotation than I am. Ohtani's coming off of Tommy John surgery. I'm sure he'll be pretty good, but you never know. It's gonna be tough to it's gonna be an interesting learning curve. But everybody else, I mean, I don't see any other talent. It's just like it literally I don't. I'm not.
Well,
a fan.
The thing is, Ohtani, every time he's pitched against the A's, he's killed us. His very first game, he went like 7 innings and struck out 12.
That's fine. And then he got Tommy John surgery, so we'll see how he feels with a new elbow. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I can't. There's nothing guaranteed with him, and I wouldn't feel too confident if I was an Angels fan personally. Speaking of playoffs, which you said earlier, them potentially making the playoffs. Another big news story, but it's still just a rumor. The playoffs could potentially be expanded from 10 teams to 16 teams, more than half the league. Your thoughts, Julio?
That's a lot of teams. So what you'd have I'm trying to think of what it would look like in front of me to kind of see. Well, obviously, like the 3 division winners, I'm guessing would get it by. And then,
I don't know.
Then you'd have like a 1 seed wild card, and then you'd have 4 wild cardish teams, and then that'd be their own playoff seeding, and whoever plays that would play the wild card, and then the winner it's complicated. I think it's a good thing to have for this year for sure, because there's going to be a good chance where we're going to see a team last year who was easily in the playoffs, and there could be a chance just because if things don't fall right for a week for them, they're out. Mm-hmm. And I think having something like this, it does create a better opportunity. If you think about where the sport will be by the time it is October or beginning of October, football's kind of up in the air. We don't know. They're saying they're going to be doing everyday testing, but until we start seeing training camp stuff that we don't know, basketball by that time would actually be in their finals or deep in the playoffs.
Around early October is when they would be in the finals. Early October, late September.
I'd want to see what's going to be. I'm assuming you're probably in the same boat. Like, I don't mind it. I think it's a good idea because this is such an odd season. But until we can kind of get a better idea, we can't really speak too much on it.
I think 16's too much. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know, and a lot of listeners on my personal podcast, shout out, go subscribe and listen to the Magic Hour podcast hosted by me. On my podcast, a lot of my listeners have heard me say how much I want to expand the MLB playoffs, which I do. because I just love watching competitive baseball games where they actually matter, where they're intense. Because it feels like in the dog days of summer and middle of July, they're just so boring and just kind of like going through the motions, and you don't really have much invested in them. Like MLB playoff time is like my favorite time of year. I just love
Oh yeah,
like hanging out and
October
watching like
rules.
4 games every night. Yeah. I think 12 or 14 is like the number, because then it's like an exclusive club in some way, shape, or form. It's not more than half the league. It's like a smaller percentage, around like 40%. And you could do that easily. I mean, 6 teams per each league. You could do, the 3 division winners, and then the top 2 teams in each league get a bye the first round, and then or you turn it into just two divisions per league instead of 3 divisions, and then the winner of the 2 divisions in each league, they get a bye the first round, and then the 4 wild cards have to play each other. I don't know. I mean, it's just there's definitely more you could do there. I just think 16 is just too much.
And I think what makes it a little more interesting too is baseball, more than any other sport, is any given day. We've seen multiple
Exactly.
wildcard teams go on to the World Series and win a World Series. We've seen teams who've
National did last
made it
year.
into the we've seen teams made it into the playoffs the last day of the regular season and going to win the World Series.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, yeah, get ready for your World Series champion Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay.
Speaking of the Blue Jays,
Speaking of the
last
Blue
bit
Jays,
of news.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Canadian government has actually disallowed the Toronto Blue Jays from playing their season in Toronto this year. So because of that, Toronto Blue Jays need a home for the season. The Pitts and one of the options was going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates Stadium, PNC Park. The Pirates had agreed that they will be allowed to use PNC as their home stadium, but the Pennsylvania government has actually shot it down and they've declined it. So right now,
Did they say why?
I'm assuming it's going to be something along the lines of safety protocol. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but right now, the Toronto Blue Jays are a free agent team. So
I know Florida is trying to welcome him in, but they're like, bro, no. 'Cause, like,
no,
you guys
no,
are the worst.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard some potential. One of my buddies, Rich Flatter, shout out to Rich. He lives on the East Coast, from the East Coast, Connecticut, all that. He said one of the options that he heard was Connecticut and Hartford, but it's like
Oh.
one of and because one of the things that brought up was Buffalo, because their minor league team is in Buffalo.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that would make sense.
but the biggest issue is like unfortunately, a minor league stadium does not offer the same capacity in terms of like training and bringing the media and bringing
Amenities.
the visiting amenities that a major league stadium would. So it's gonna be a lot of issues. I think it'd be pretty cool if they convert maybe like a football field somewhere is converted into a baseball field.
The thing is, like, they have to keep it up on that, like, part of the hemisphere of the, for lack of a better word, of the earth, because, like, if they went down to Florida and, they're used to, like, the Toronto, weather, and, like, in just everything about it, like, the altitude, the humidity and stuff like that, and then you go to Florida, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a shit ton of injuries this year, because that's just a lot of, like, that's a dramatic shock to your body's system, like,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that would not be the smart idea at all. Look, during the season, what amenities are they talking about, though? They're talking about, like, whirlpools and, like, a cage like that.
I'm assuming whatever your typical clubhouse amenities are going to be. One, having the space to fit a full 30-man roster plus, or 30 men to start the season, plus your coaching staff, plus your traveling team, plus everything that comes with a team visiting you in your specific city. That's going to be interesting. If I had to kind of make like a bold prediction on where they'd end up playing, I could find some school that's going to be in the Northeast that's not going to be playing a season, where if they have the capacity for them to use their baseball field, I think honestly, the Ivy League is not going to be playing this year. That could be an option if they want to use like Harvard's baseball
Yeah.
field or something like that. Or if like some football teams are not going to be playing the season, convert their field, extra revenue for the schools. I think that'd be a decent idea. What about you?
I mean, I just don't know the New York, New England area well enough to give a adequate like answer to that. Like I have no idea
just
what
say
any of those.
Cooperstown. They'll use
Cooperstown, sure.
There you go.
No, literally, like
That's a great idea,
I just don't know, and I could not begin to try and guess that. I feel like I would be doing our listeners a disservice by trying. But like, there's people in the front office that are getting paid a lot more money than I am at my normal job to do that stuff, and they need to they need to figure it out. And I'm sure there's plenty of places they could go. I'm sure like any college facility would suffice, because I've been to like University of Kentucky for a documentary shoot. Their like athletic facility, their gym, their weight room is top of the line. Who gives a shit where you're playing physical baseball on a field? It can be a college stadium. Like, who cares? But like the facilities that you need, like there's colleges all over the country that have this stuff because the boosters pay for it. And it's like Olympic style facilities. So like, yeah, they'll make it work. I don't think Florida's the move, but like, yeah, like I don't know, UConn is a good option. Like,
ooh, that'd actually be that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
UConn.
Fuck, what else is up there? I mean,
just name off random schools on the East Coast.
Syracuse.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Look at that, Chris.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Okay, so let's move on to the A's news then.
So tune in next week to find out who's the winner of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Toronto Blue Jays, yeah. who's the home city that has to deal with that fucking mess? All right. And will they be staying there permanently? Will Canada want them back?
Tune in next week on Dragon Ball Z. Ace talk.
Okay, so
finally, let's get to the good stuff.
The biggest thing in the news is that AJ Puck has been put on the injured list with a right shoulder injury. They, I believe, had an MRI and there was no structural damage. It's just kind of a lingering injury from spring training. He's expected to sit out till at least August 17th, so he's going to miss about 2 weeks. Nothing too crazy. It's not like another Tommy John or something like that. It seems pretty minor, just some soreness. We expected some injuries like this to happen this year with, the kind of fast restart. So that's good. Bob Melvin's named Daniel Megden, correct, as the
yes, Megden's going to be the replacement
starter in his place.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I had to think about it for a second.
So, I mean, one thing that we have is starting pitching depth in this organization. So, Megden, I'm sure, can deal out a couple of quality starts. I'm not too concerned about it, but I have a take on Megden that I want to say later in the podcast, so I'm not going to say too much on it right now. But AJ Puck, huge, crucial member of the future of our team, so it's important that we get him out there this season. And
I think we both had a huge sigh of relief that it was really just kind of he's only going to need a cortisone shot and rest, more or less.
Yeah.
We were kind of, because of his injury history with the Tommy John and with the shoulder injury in the spring, it was a little concerning that this was going to be a little more than what it actually was. But you brought up the point that we do have the benefit of depth. Yes, Daniel Megden is not at the talent that AJ Puck is, but thankfully he's a serviceable player. He's somebody who's got a big league experience. He's been in the A's rotation on and off for the last 3 years. We know what he can do.
And he's had some really good stints. Like, he's had some really bad ones, but he's had some really good ones.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he's had stints like a couple of years ago. He won like 5 games in a row, and he looked really good. And
And I think this is also
Yeah,
going to be a good time for them to kind of figure out what they really want to do with this bullpen. We know at this point that
exactly.
Jesus Luzardo is going to be starting in the bullpen as he's getting more into baseball shape after
Hmm.
recovering from COVID. And at one point, I could see them going like 4 innings of Bangden, and then Luzardo takes it all the way to the ninth, or we'll bring in Hendricks or Petit in the eighth, ninth. So
Yeah,
it's not like Megden's going to be the only option. I know you're kind of a big Paul Blackburn fan. Shout out to Heritage High School in
I
Brentwood.
wouldn't say I wouldn't say that I'm a big Paul Blackburn fan, but he's proven himself to handle and be consistent in the major leagues at the starting position. He's not so up and down like some of these
Well,
other guys, but the thing, he's just consistently like average, and
yeah,
he's a safer bet. Whereas like Megden, like you could get like a fucking killer start out of him, or you just get a shit bag,
and
for lack
I
of a
didn't
better
get a
word. So
chance to check.
that's what I'm worried about.
And I'm going to bring this up right now. It also kind of depends on the schedule. If we have kind of a schedule where the A's do benefit from having to like miss a little bit of extra time. So okay, I gotta put it now. So we got Angels, Rockies, Seattle, Texas, Houston, Angels again, and then he'd be coming back against the series against the Giants. And from
Okay,
that point, the A's would have. Oh, jeez. The A's would be playing 17 days in a row. So he'd be coming
that
back
would
in
be
perfect timing.
that would be a good start for him too, because the Giants suck. So that'd be like a good way to kind of like like get your feet wet, you know?
Yeah, I think that'd be a really great start for him. Just to, if he can get in a pitch that weekend
Yeah.
and kind of come in and bring that relief that the team needs when you're playing that many days in a row.
And I
But
know people, A's fans listening, probably their first thought is like, why wouldn't Chris Bassett get that starting spot? Well, Chris Bassett's already in the rotation because Jesus Luzardo has COVID-19. So Chris Bassett has taken that spot in the rotation. So he
yeah,
will be there for at least the near future. We've talked about this a lot this offseason, that we think he'll probably make his way to the bullpen as like the go-to like long reliever, but we'll see.
I
Um,
don't think. Sorry, before we move to the next thing, I wouldn't think Bassett, or honestly, I don't think Mendon's going to be in the rotation for too long because I think once
no.
Bob Melvin's okay to kind of like take off the leash on Lazardo and just throw him right into the rotation again, I could see
Yeah.
Mengden going right back to the bullpen and then just have Bassett be the number 5.
Yeah. But I'm saying when Puck comes back too, though. So then
Yeah,
Luzardo and Puck, those spots are gone. I really like. I'll, not, I'll say it now. Actually, it's not as related to something I'm talking about later. I really like Megden, the idea of Megden in the bullpen. I think he'd be a really solid middle reliever, like right before the setup man, like the setup to the setup man, I guess you'd call him, which is what we kind of like the Ryan Cook role from 2012, 2013 team.
go.
Yeah, yeah. Like when those three would come in and be Cook, Doolittle, then Balfour, that was just such a killer way to end a game. Like
There's a term.
teams would look at that and be like, if they're down by two, they're just like, oh fuck, we gotta go against these three guys now. So I feel like
There's a term
a
for that player
Megden
now. I can't
Petit.
think of it.
Oh, is there really?
Yeah. Anyways,
A
keep going.
Megden
Sorry.
Petit, Hendricks end of the bullpen seems fucking nice. And then Bassett as like the long guy, whereas like, let's say Mike Fiers, for example, gets in some trouble in the first couple innings, because every game matters this season. There's 60 games, so it's like you cannot afford to leave your starter and hope that things are going to turn around. Like if you're down by 3 runs in the first 2 innings, like you got to pull them. So you need like that go-to, like used to be a starter, long reliever guy who can eat up like 4 innings for you. I think that's going to be crucial. Okay. So the second piece of A's news, something that this is more of an observation that we've noticed. Tony Kemp getting a lot of the starts and reps at second base. So I think they're going with the safe route this season instead of trying to test out Bassett and seeing what he could do. I think they kind of realized that they can't afford to. They need to put the for sure guy they know they're getting out of at second base and going with Tony Kemp.
Did you mean Bassett? You meant
Or sorry,
Mateo?
Bassett.
I'm sorry,
Barreto.
Barreto.
Franklin Barreto. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're going for. I think they're going for. I mean, you know what you get out of Tony Kemp? Around 240. Maybe 10 home runs a season during a normal season. Be able to steal some bases. Above average defender. I don't hate the move. I kind of like it. I think I like it better than the options that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's nice. When all else fails, go veteran kind of thing. Especially, I think that's kind of the surplus that the A's lineup has this season. Where if your only real problem is like who we're going to start at second, to be honest, that's a ton of teams in baseball, a lot of teams in baseball, unless you have like one of those premier guys at second or have run into that issue. So yeah, I'd be totally okay with it for it to start the season. I was reading about Chad Pinder and that Pinder was getting a lot of reps at second. I know Bomel kind of likes to use him as like a plug in and play, and that he actually, despite, we'll probably talk about it later in the show, the falter of the A's offense during the exhibition games, he was actually one of the highlights. He was hitting the wall pretty well, even throughout summer camp. Bomel was saying that he was probably one of the better offensive players. That's the one thing I'm a little surprised that I thought he would have gone that rep in there, but who knows? Maybe that's going to be like his ace in the sleeve, and if Kemp can't keep up with the work of being in that infield, and I don't really see them relying so much on their bat because of how really powerful that A's offense is. They don't need him to hit 15, 20 home runs. Just, dude, get on base, play some defense.
Yeah, that's an interesting segue because the next piece of news is, again, another observation. The A's offense not playing so well in these exhibition preseason games, so that's also something to be worried about. They scored 2 runs yesterday on a walk and then a double by Pinder. The day before that, they scored...
No, triple, which should have been a home run.
Triple, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And then the day before that, they scored... shit, I don't have it in front of me. They scored 2 runs... Or, sorry, no, that's
2
wrong.
runs. They scored 4 runs total.
Yeah.
Over the 2
they
days.
scored 2 runs, yeah. And this was to the Giants, so... A little concerning. Definitely going to have to shake off the dust to begin the season, but again, it's only 60 games.
Yeah.
Playing with fire on that one.
Playing with fires. Yeah. I know you
were
kind of
those puns.
Yeah. Former Joan Cruz skipper, what to do. I know you were kind of mentioning that the starting rotation, the starters got lit up a little bit, but Fiers actually had a pretty decent game. He just gave us 2 solo home runs. Sean Manaea, I'm not really too worried about the offense because, one, I think they're too talented offensively. We've seen what they've been able to do over the last few years to really fall flat like that again. I think the one thing, biggest encouragement, thing that I saw was that Steven Piscotty actually looked pretty good in those couple games, especially after like how frustrating last year was with him, where his first
that
year
nagging injury he had all year.
Yeah, and then his first year in 2018, he had about 24 home runs.
He had 25 and hit like 260. Like he killed it that year.
Yeah, so it's great to see. Hopefully that gets back. The 2 things, and one, the Giants, Gabe Kapler, I think Gabe Kapler is going to be like actually a really great fit for his managing style with the Giants.
A lot of Giants fans I know aren't crazy about him, so it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
These are Giants fans. They don't know shit.
Exactly. He's a little unconventional. Case in point, he threw out a different pitcher every inning. And that probably is a big, and I don't know if that was his decision or if that was like Bomel being like, yeah, let's do this. I want my guys to see as many different pitchers as we can.
Like them, like negotiating it, like before at the beginning of the game, like, hey, we want to like get like a lot of practice in, so bring in every pitcher you can, or something.
Yeah, because there was like, if you watch like the summer camp games, there was teams who were like, oh, let's get this guy. It was 3rd out, but let's get him another at bat. or let's play an extra innings just to test out the scenarios. But yeah, that I think that was a big part of it. Was just like we're seeing different guys every single time. Um, the one thing I was a little nervous about was Sean Manaea. He pitched a decent game, um, but his velocity was pretty down. He didn't hit
But his
90 the whole night on
but his
Monday.
velocity, but that was when he came back from his injury last year. That was a thing. Like he couldn't hit really 90 that much anymore. Um, his velocity has kind of been down. But remember, he had a really good run at the end of the season last year. It's because he has gotten really good at mixing up his pitches, and he's very accurate. Hits his spots, but it's mainly just he's gotten really good at mixing up his pitches, and he's always been really good at that. That's always kind of been his strength. He's never been like a fucking blow by you guy. I think he threw like
No,
93, 94 before, so it is a little bit of a difference, but it's kind of the mental game that he brings to the mound that made him successful. I wouldn't be too worried about it, Julio. I mean, it's just
yeah.
it's part of that injury, you know. And his wasn't
Uh,
Tommy John; it was like a shoulder thing, and yeah,
so another quick shout out. I was texting with my uncle Javi. Shout out Javi. Um, his concern was Chris Davis. Still, he's like he still like I know we've seen multiple articles in the Athletic, and we've seen guys around Bowmel and the rest of the team has been like, yeah, Kemp or Chris Davis looks like he's back to hitting again. But like it's like he still doesn't look right. There still looks like there's something wrong with them. Obviously, I was trying
it's
to
only
shoot
been
it
two
down. Like
exhibition games, dude. It's
exactly.
only been two exhibition games. Uncle Javi, just slow it down, bro. Let's wait
Exactly.
about 3 weeks and then we'll make our decision.
Um, yeah, I think the one thing we texted about before we jump onto the next thing was about a week or two ago or about 2 weeks ago when summer camp was really going into full speed. Matt Chapman brought up a point about the competitive disadvantage that the A's have had because the A's didn't, or the A's pitchers didn't actually get into Oakland and start pitching at the Coliseum again until July 4th, and then the
Yeah.
hitters didn't actually get in until about July 6th or 7th, while
Mm-hmm.
most of baseball was already there. And now we're seeing the A's got an exhibition game where we played 2 games against the Giants and looked like shit. Uh, Again, 2 games. But it seems like the Angels have had multiple games against the Padres, have multiple games against the Dodgers. You've seen the Yankees have had games against the Mets, had games against the Phillies. And he kind of has a point. It could
Yeah.
be,
And it's definitely showing in these 2 games.
and it could be more of just a regional thing where if you are the Angels or if you are the Dodgers, of course you're going to play those games against the rival that's only an hour and 2 hours away from you. And same thing with the Yankees.
Yeah, it is a bit of a disadvantage, but and yeah, I think it's shown in in those 2 games. But I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. It's just kind of the circumstances that we're in. So like,
Yeah.
it's no one's fault. I don't think it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't sound like it didn't sound like when I saw that Matt Chapman was blaming anybody. But like, if he was, it's like who are you blaming? Because it's literally no one's fault. Like this is just kind of the situation that we're in this year, and you got to make do with what you got. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break. We'll come back and we will jump into our segment and then our final 3 segments of the episode. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, A's fans, welcome back. Welcome back to the tailgate. Couple beers deep in, Julio. So I think it's a good time to bring on. This will be our first segment of the our first. I don't know what do we call it? The creative segment. I think that's a good way to put it, right? 'Cause it's going to be creative.
This is be our first open aired segment. I don't know, but it's more.
Yeah.
This is more of our fun shoot the shit segment. Really, no holds barred. In the cage, still cage, hell in the cell.
The steel cage. So this segment is going to be called "I've had a few beers, but dot dot dot. The reason why we're calling it that is it's going to be kind of our hot take segment. You know that guy who, let's say you show up to a 1 o'clock A's game. You start the tailgate when the Coliseum gates open, 9 o'clock. Everybody knows that. You set up the grill, but you're not quite grilling burgers yet. You're kind of waiting for people to show up. It's like 4 of you hanging out, playing some beer pong, maybe some four-banger, shotgunning beers because you guys are really excited. You want to get going. Friends start showing up. More and more friends start showing up, and this is that guy who starts taking shots every time a friend shows up. Takes a shotgun every time a friend shows up. And about 2 hours before the game, he's pretty fucked up. You could tell it's a 50-50 chance he even makes it inside the Coliseum. You're playing cornhole, and he looks over to you, and he goes, "You know what, man? I've had a few beers, but..." Insert random hot take that is either super rational, and you're like, you're kind of making some sense, or you're kind of like, what the fuck did you just say? One of those things. So that's what this is going to be.
This is dedicated.
All right, Julio.
This is dedicated to the people who, at a 7:05 game time, don't go into the stadium until 7:45.
Yeah, and this segment is pretty much based off of my entire adult life.
Yeah,
I'm that guy. I'm that guy who goes hard at the start of the tailgate and is just ready to and every time someone new comes in, I'm just pounding a beer with them. And I've got a lot of hot takes. Let's just say that. All right. Do you want me to go first?
I've been excited to hear this.
Okay.
As you're sipping a nice
right.
Coors Light.
All right, Julio. I've had a few beers, but I am a firm, passionate believer that the winner of this World Series this season is a real World Series winner. And here's why. I am tired of hearing sports talk radio, ESPN talking heads talking about, are we really going to respect the winner of this championship, whether it's the NBA, NHL, MLB, whatever it is. I just feel like that's so insensitive to and so disrespectful to these athletes who are risking their health, their well-being, the health of their families, and their lives in order to entertain us because we miss sports. And in order to, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to listen to this and be like, they're getting paid, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, they're getting paid. But if you were to go to your job, if you at your job and your boss, your employer, your company didn't take the proper precautions to keep you safe while still trying to employ you, like you would be kind of upset, right? You're not just gonna be like, all right, I quit. I'm gonna go like work for some other company. You're gonna have like you're gonna have a confrontation with them and try and get them to do this. So these guys this is coming out terribly. These guys are employees of Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball is more or less handling this pretty poorly. This is a big risk for everybody. So I think out of respect towards these guys and what they're doing and and them even just giving it a chance, we should respect whoever the champion is this year, unless it's the Houston Astros because they owe us one, so we'll just take that one right back. That's my take.
I feel like I agree with you in the sense of baseball, because baseball was the only sport to not start. Wasn't able to start because of COVID. Look, I've talked about this with you and our good friend Manny Wren. Shout out Manny. I'm a hater. At the end of the day, I'm going to be a hater. And I've said multiple times, I would rather not have basketball return than to have LeBron win a title as a Laker. And look,
I feel the same way, but I mostly said it as out of parody. I didn't actually mean it.
No, yeah, but
you actually mean it.
I would rather not have basketball come back than the possibility of a LeBron championship. I'll say it. Mm-hmm. And I would say I would be faster to discredit this NBA championship faster than MLB, because I think a big part of the MLBs is you're still traveling. You still have to deal with jumping on right after a game. You're gonna have to jump on a plane and fly to Houston, and then from Houston you got to go to Arlington, and from Arlington you got to go to Arizona, and you still got to go all over the place. Um, and I'll agree with you with baseball. Yeah, I think this should be a World Series title no matter what. And I'll just leave it at that. I agree with you on that. Your beer got to me.
I don't know, man. I just think it's yeah. I thought long hard about it, and yeah, I remember on my podcast talking about that with Manny, and I had that take too, but I thought long and hard about it, and I watched a lot of television. I just think it's very insensitive and very like fucked up to think of these guys and what they're doing in order to entertain us, and to treat it that way with so much disrespect, because I don't know if a lot of us would have the balls to do it.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Especially guys like Sean Doolittle. His wife has a disease that is very risky for people with coronavirus, and he's sacrificing that every day by going to these games and potentially infecting his wife. And I guess they're figuring out a way where they're not going to be living together during the season, so he's going to be apart from her, and that's a big sacrifice. And I'm not willing to die on the hill that Stugotz is dying on right now and going hardcore, and he's not respecting the champion of any of the leagues this season because he doesn't think they're real seasons.
Mike Trout's wife is about to go into labor. Buster Posey opted out because his family is adopting twins who were born prematurely. Like, dude,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. This should be, even in the NBA. I won't be happy if it is the Lakers, but yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. You're up.
All right. Let me take a
long sip of your sip of your torpedo
of my Sierra Nevada torpedo. Shout out Chica, IPA. But Chris, I've had a few beers.
Julio,
so I'm gonna keep this in Oakland. I think Frankie Montas is going to be your Cy Young winner in 2020.
Here's the thing, man. I kind of agree. I think
So,
I'm with you on this one.
So
he had a great spring training before the shutdown. He had last season. Obviously, he was phenomenal. He's a top 5 pitcher in the league before he got.
Let me explain that part.
Okay.
Yeah, this was my part of my argument. Yes.
I know. I just got excited.
Yeah, I know. Because exactly. It's the beer talk. But yeah, before his PED suspension, Frankie Montas was arguably the best pitcher in the American League. His ERA was going up there. He was throwing in the high 90s, and he looked like he was going to be potentially on his way to starting the American League All-Star game. His PED suspension comes back. He still stayed in shape, and he started the last few games of the 2019 season, and he looked great. He was still pitching pretty well. And then, we go into the playoffs, he wasn't able to pitch. Now, it's interesting because he kind of gets lost in the tracks because we're running off in terms of our rotation, we're running off the high of the potential of Puck and Luzardo in the future. We're running off the high of how well Sean Manaea did in that last month of September and when he came up. And Mike Fiers, who during at one point in the season, not only was he the ace of the rotation, he was one of the best pitchers in the American League. He looked great. But we forgot about Montas. And it was one of the guys we kept forgetting about. Something we really got to credit him on was during the COVID crisis. Well, we're still in the COVID crisis, but when the baseball shutdown was happening, he still stayed in shape. He stayed back in Arizona. He got a personal trainer out there who initially allowed him to use a wall just for him to throw against so he can kind of work on some stuff. But he also worked with him to just get in better shape.
Apparently he got pretty jacked.
Yeah.
Not jacked, but jacked, but also cut.
He got lean.
When I say lean. Jacked, I feel like people are, Yeah, and he's just fucking yoked now.
Yeah, he lost about, I want to say, I think it was like three. I don't have the number in front of me. He lost about 3% body fat, and he was always like a pretty high fastball pitcher, but now he's hitting triple digits just from getting in
Yeah.
that shape and losing that. And
That's fucking crazy. Yeah, I remember reading that he's hitting triple. It's like, what the fuck?
yeah, and he's he wasn't just pitching against some random high school kids out in Gilbert, Arizona. He was like pitching to Jose Ramirez, all-star third
Yeah.
baseman. Like, it was just some scrubs, and
Yeah.
like even if he was saying it, early reports from how he's looked at the camps, like he looks sharp. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look across the American League right now, if you look at your perennial Cy Young favorites, you're thinking Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, fuck that guy, Charlie Morton, Blake Snell.
Blake Snell. Yeah.
Yeah, Jose. I think Jose Barrios is kind of a low key card. There's a lot of factors with those guys. Garrett Cole. I think Garrett Cole's. I know you're probably gonna hate this take because he is on your fantasy team. Garrett Cole's still gonna get a ton of strikeouts. I still don't know how he's gonna pitch in Yankee Stadium. We won't know. Justin Verlander, you got to figure out at one point age is gonna hit him. You can make that same argument with Charlie Morton, who was a top 3 Cy Young finalist last year, and with Blake Snell. He had an okay year last year. We got to see if he's going to bounce back. This is the opportunity for somebody, a wild card like Frankie Montas, who easily was in the running for the first half of the season last year, to really run away with it this year. If he can continue, and something I didn't get to say yet, he's got a point to prove. He wants to show everybody that he has it.
Yeah, after the whole PD scandal. Yeah, 100%. No, I love that take. I agree with it. I think, or I don't agree with it, but I think there's definitely potential. And on top of that, his spring training stats were really good before the shutdown. So, I believe in that take 100%. I support it.
This isn't just the torpedo talking. This is my heart.
No, I could tell. When you texted me yesterday that he's been consistently pitching in 100 or triple digits, I could tell that I had a feeling that that was going to be your I've had a few beers. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this is the Tailgate Tools, the Tailgate Essential Tool of the Week. So this is going to be a player who we think is going to be very important in the coming week, as a member of the success, or it's going to contribute to the success of the team. Someone to look out for. How else would you explain it?
Okay, so think about when you're at tailgating. You got to have your essential that if you forget it, if let's say, okay, I need tongs. I can't grill some burgers and hot dogs or vegan burgers, whatever we're going to talk about, without some tongs. So immediately the first thing you do is you're going to hit up somebody who's going to be joining you and say, I need you to bring this. I forgot it. It's because it's essential. You really can't have a quality barbecue or quality tailgate without these essential things, like some cooking utensils, the right meats, some beer, the right people. What this segment is going to be is like, who is our person that, in order for the A's to be really successful over this next week until the following episode, this person has to step up to the plate. This is the person that is, again, essential to produce a good product on the field.
All right, so why don't you go first, actually?
Awesome.
Since I did.
Very excited. I think the person who really needs to get started right out of the gate, be the essential player for the A's to kind of prove the point of the season, is going to be Liam Hendriks. Last year, Liam was robbed of the Rolaids Relief Man of the Year last year in the American League. That went to Aroldis Chapman. But he was the best closer in baseball in the American League last year. I know a lot of people outside of A's fans are going to be a little iffy of what he can do this season, just because we've seen closers come in and leave with the A's. When you think about what Blake Trinan was able to do in 2018 and what happened to him in 2019. And
Jim Johnson, too, is another one.
Please do not bring up Jim Johnson.
I mean, it's the reality of the situation. He needs to be brought up because we remember that Liam Hendriks carried a lot of weight on his shoulders in that bullpen at the end of the year last year. He carried a lot of weight.
The A's wouldn't be a playoff wildcard team if he wasn't able to pitch 2 innings anytime Bowmel needed him to go on there and pitch it.
Exactly.
What's going to be the most important part, I would say, of this next week is to see what the bullpen can do. I would imagine this over the next week against the Angels and the Rockies. The offense is probably not going to be at the pace it's going to be for the rest of the season. I can imagine there's going to be some bumps in the road of how they're going to play. So it's important that our pitching is going to be there. I'd imagine the rotation isn't going to, from what I've seen from the exhibition games, the rotation is still going to be there. They're still going to perform fine, but it really is on Liam Hendriks to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. He can still sustain, especially with him coming up. I believe this is a contract year, or the following year is going to be a contract year.
Yeah. I don't think it's this year. I think it's next year. Yeah. All right, so mine is also a pitcher. Mine is Daniel Megden. I think that it strictly because of the things I was saying earlier. This is a short season, and every fucking game matters. And he has got to be able to carry the weight in this stacked rotation and replacing, our most promising young pitcher in Luzardo. And just it's going to be crucial. If he gets 2 wins out of this, I'm going to be very happy. Regardless of how he gets those wins, just as long as he gets them, I'll be happy. But also to prove his worth, to keep him on the roster as like a bullpen guy or something. And try and make a major league go at this. Because we've seen a lot of pitchers who have come up for a little bit, shown some promise, and then they kind of fade away. Kendall Graveman, off the top of my head,
AJ Griffin,
a bunch of names.
Tommy Malone,
yeah.
That's good. At the same time.
So I think this is really crucial for him. So I'm going to look forward to seeing him, and I'm going to watch him very closely. Okay.
I like that.
All right, so this is the thank you. This is the week that we got coming up. So we have the Angels are in town. They have a 4-game series with them that they open with. Friday night, Frankie Montas versus Andrew Heaney. Saturday, Shamanaya versus Dylan Bundy. And then we got Sunday, Mike Fiers versus Shohei Ohtani. Sounds like a fun one. And then Monday is Chris Bassett versus Griffin Canning. Never heard of him, so that should be interesting. And then the Colorado Rockies come to town. So we got a American League Division Series, and then we got a
NL West, AL
a
West
National League series. So I'm interested to see like how the Angels this new personnel does. I really want to see the dynamic and how they play on the field. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I think that I don't know. I'm looking at these just straight pitching matchups. It's the same thing that we were talking about earlier, dude. Like we win hands down 3 out of 4 of these, and the last one, Fiers versus Ohtani. Like, yeah, it's Shohei Ohtani, but like coming off the injury, going against arguably our most established pitcher. Like I don't know. The offense worries me though. Again, the offense does still worry me.
I think we have, if Rendon is not ready to play this series, that's going to be a huge benefit for the A's. That
absolutely.
Yeah, once you kind of get past Trout and Ohtani in that lineup, and Ohtani probably won't be playing on Saturday just because I believe how they've been kept it, at least the last couple of years, is he usually takes the day off before his pitching to go out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a huge benefit, and I want to see Rendon out there because I think he's going to be great for the Angels. He World Series champion, and he really was a hero for that team. He'll be a difference maker. But if he's not there in that first series, then cool, we'll take it.
I'm not upset about
now,
it. Yeah.
Griffin Canning, I know you said you've never heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
he is actually supposed to be. He is one of the better pitching prospects for the Angels, and there is some pretty high expectations. So I want to make sure we don't sound ignorant when we don't say. And in the same sense, you're saying, "Oh, Otani was injured. Let's see if he keeps it up." But at the same time,
That's more me just sliding him.
ah, got it. Okay, I was gonna say because at the same time, when an Angels fan sees Sean Manaea, they're like, "Oh, that guy, he was injured," but we know how good he is, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a fun series. I think it's been like the last 3 years the A's have opened against the Angels, so it's pretty
Yeah.
cool that this has been a consistent um, thing that's been going
Yeah,
on.
thank God we got fucking 10 years of opening the season against King Felix and getting our asses kicked. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
kinda
thank
nice.
God. Thank God about that. But
Um,
yeah. So what's
yeah.
how do you think the series is gonna go? What's your expectation?
I genuinely think it's going to be 3-1. I like Montaz over Heaney. I like Mania over Bundy. I just it's so hard to tell with the way our offense has played the last couple of games though.
Over
But I'd like to think they get it together, like especially like with meaningful games and like maybe they're tightening it up a little bit. But I just again I mean I've been telling you this all off season. I'm not big on the Angels. I just I'm not jumping on that train because it feels like every off season people do and it's the same disappointment
all
by
right,
them.
I'm gonna give you an over under, and we'll come back to this for the next episode. First 4 games, over under 15 runs. So that's averaging a little bit before
I'm
4
gonna
game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under just because of the way the offense has been playing.
Yeah, I hate that I'm agreeing with you on this because we want it to be more, but
Yeah.
I'd say under.
All right, and then next series, Colorado. That's gonna be interesting. So I wonder if Charlie Blackmon is gonna be back in time for that because he just got okayed from COVID. I don't know if he's like in game shape
Yeah.
yet. They're not as good of a team this year though.
I mean, the offensive pieces are still there. It's going to be cool to see Arenado and Chapman playing against one another.
Yeah.
Uh,
Former high school teammates.
We know what Arenado, or we know what Blackman can do if he's out there. Trevor Story, one of the better offensive shortstops in the game.
You know who I didn't know joined their team this offseason? I forgot. When I was picking up players for our fantasy team, I saw Daniel
Murphy.
Fuck. Yeah, Daniel Murphy. I didn't know that he joined their team. He's their second baseman. That's kind of a nice little addition.
Yeah, I think he was there last season as well. So he's been there for a minute.
Was he?
It's just he didn't perform at what you thought he would have playing at Coors Field.
Yeah, he hit like 270 and had like 10 home runs. You'd think he'd do a lot better.
He had a bit of a
someone who was someone who led the league and who won the batting championship, led the league in average like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Honestly, I think this is going to be a pretty easy series win. Once you kind of get past John Gray and the Rockies rotation, which we'll probably face him on Tuesday or Wednesday, it's pretty much cake. And I would hope by that point the A's offense would be a little more acclimated and be ready to take on the Rockies. That this might be the confidence boost that they'll need by that point if they stagger a little bit against the Angels.
Yeah. I feel that. All right, man. That's good. Solid first episode. Got to go know a little bit about us. Got to get a little sneak preview of our fun segments.
Yeah.
And we got really deep into league talk, which was fun. But yeah. So I don't know. I think we didn't really get too deep into the upcoming week, but I don't think there's really too much to talk about.
Yeah. No, it's
not too fun of series coming up. It's kind of pretty flatlined. Like if the Dodgers or the Astros were on the schedule, I think it'd be more interesting. But it's it's the first week of the season.
Yeah, we kind of got to. I think this is gonna be the really point. Like we watched the exhibition games. We're a little nervous because of it, but it's like we don't really know what this team's gonna be. And if this were any other team, where I think a majority of baseball teams were airing their inter-squad games on TV. The A's were one of the teams that opted out of it because of competitive advantage, which I think is total BS. There's probably a reason why they didn't do it. But yeah, it's a little hidden on what this team can really do. We know what they can do, but I'm assuming probably this next episode we'll have a pretty good idea of the next week. We can see what's happened in this first week, where we can get a little more in depth with it. And
yeah, but it was fun. It's a good little preview.
Yeah, and also,
all right, man. Well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Before we cut off, I was gonna say this week episode was a little bit longer. I think we probably both went over our expectations of what it's gonna be.
We also added in like bios of us, which took a lot of time. So like we won't be doing
Julio
that in the
born
future.
in Antioch, California, on a hot summer night. No, but
yeah, for the listeners, you can expect something like a 30 to 50 minute podcast, somewhere around there. It won't be too crazy.
Yeah, this isn't going to be Lord of the Rings extended edition every episode.
No. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please subscribe. We'll be here every Thursday.
And last,
you the best,
but not least, let's go Oakland.
Let's go Oakland. The game's starting. We got to get inside the stadium, so let's start packing up the gear.
All right, see you at the seats.
And we'll head out. All right, that's it. Peace. The Town Tailgate is an independently produced podcast. It is executive produced and written by me, Chris Madrigal, and Julio Reynoso. It is produced by me. It is sound designed by me. The artwork and graphic design was done by Larry Madrigal, and the opening theme was composed, written, and produced by Larry Madrigal as well. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.